Irvington Mayor Tony Vauss, thank you for joining us today, sir.
No, thank you.
I'd like to start with the news of the day, Mayor, which is the state of New Jersey opening up eligibility for the COVID-19 vaccine to those 16 and older. What's your reaction to that, and what's the impact of that policy at the ground level in your town?
Well, I think it's terrific. We here in the township of Irvington have been promoting everyone get vaccinated. I myself was vaccinated. I took the Moderna shot, both dosages, so I am fully vaccinated. And, I think it's important for all of us to realize that, over 500,000 people lost their lives to this dreaded disease. And it's very important that, we all, when we have the opportunity to get vaccinated. And, opening up to our younger folks, which are at this current time, as you know, are experiencing a high rate of transmission. I think it's good that we're doing that. I also wanted to take the time to give kudos to Essex County and the county executive when they rolled out their vaccination program. It's second to none. They're really putting the residents here in the county, first, and trying to get every single available person that they can vaccinated. And kudos to them. We've been partnering with them at pop-up sites here in the township of Irvington, getting people vaccinated here. And I just want to continue the training, continue moving forward, because it's a great thing, and it's something that we all should very much consider doing.
Mayor, where does a person get vaccinated in Irvington?
Well, we've had a couple of sites that we've been rotating through. The Irvington Housing Authority, which is located at 624 Nye Avenue in Irvington. We use that community room as a facility. We also use our Gatlin Center that's located on Union Avenue here in Irvington for folks to get vaccinated as well. Already thousands of people throughout the weeks have been getting vaccinated at those two locations. And we had a pause with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We switched out, and now they're providing Moderna as an option instead of Johnson & Johnson. But, we're looking to rev back up when and if Johnson & Johnson is readily available again.
Mayor, are you sensing any lack of confidence in the vaccine as you talk to constituents? Do you find yourself reassuring people, making the argument for why they should get it, or do you not see that kind of skepticism about it?
There's definitely skepticism, probably more now than before. People were skeptical about the vaccine during the tradition of what happened to African American, Black, and Brown people throughout the history of taking vaccines and that nature. This was a little different. I wanted people to understand that. And we tried to lead by example by myself getting vaccinated as well. In the beginning, it was very slow to get folks vaccinated. Even myself, I waited, got it about a month ago, my second shot to complete the 2-shot process. But I think it's important to do that. I think it's important to understand that we all can be victims of COVID-19, whether it's you yourself getting it, or a family member, or just loved ones in the community. So it's important to know that we need to get vaccinated. There's still some skepticism about the vaccine. I assume there will be even larger amounts of skepticism with the pause on Johnson & Johnson. But going forward, it's something that I'm going to personally promote, and people definitely have the option to see for themselves whether they want to proceed. But I would strongly recommend that they do.
Mayor, you mentioned an uptick in COVID cases among younger residents. What are you seeing citywide overall in terms of a trend right now? Are you seeing the virus coming back? Are you seeing a flattening? What's your experience of the COVID virus at this time?
People, in my opinion, are just have COVID fatigue.
Right.
They don't want to do the things that we need to do to protect one another. And, we get kind of loose with going out without masks and not properly washing our hands, or using hand sanitizer, and being in crowds. Young folks just experience spring break, and, a lot of people together in settings without masks and going back home and transmitting that to some of the older folks in their family and in their community. So I think it's more of COVID fatigue that is bringing the surge back. Some states have opened up completely. Some have removed mask mandates altogether. So there's a combination of things that are happening, but there's definitely an uptick, and we just see more and more young people getting it that we did not see originally. That could also be that a lot of older folks or middle-aged folks have been receiving the vaccine. So I'm sure there's a combination of a few things that factor in that.
Mayor, what's going on with the Irvington school system? Are you doing a hybrid, or are kids working from home virtually? And what do you anticipate in the coming weeks or in the coming year as we head into the next school season?
Well, it's going to be difficult to predict what to expect. This virus doesn't allow us to predict much. Schools have been 100% remote here in Irvington, but they're opening up either this week or next week, I believe. So they will be coming back to the classroom. Some parents have opted out not to send their kids back, and some kids are coming back. So it's just a matter of being as prepared as possible. This is an individual family decision that people are making. I can understand that. I can relate to that. I know it's very important to get our kids back into school. Just the mental fatigue and mental health issues with just not, our young folks, but all of us dealing with this tragedy has been tough over the past year. So, I think that it's important to get our children back into school, but I understand if some parents don't want to bring their kids back to school, at least not just yet.
Mayor, you've been leading Irvington now for a number of years with a considerable amount of energy, a considerable amount of optimism, with a real spiritedness and passion for your town. How has this crisis impacted your own job and particularly the specific emotional energy that you take to the job?
I mean, it's just in all people, it's our ability to cope and work together. We've been pushing hard throughout this crisis, and it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy on a township financially. It hasn't been easy mentally for most of our people, but it's something that all of our residents, no matter where you live, is something that we're all going through right now with this virus. There's a whole bunch of things that factor in, not just the virus. We still have to deal with a racial injustice, police brutality, so many other factors that people are dealing with, which is very difficult at this time. And one of the things I preach to folks is that brighter days are definitely ahead because we have weathered the storm. We've been through the thick of it, and we're going to come out the other side of this, hopefully even stronger than we were when it began.
Mayor, what do you say to that despairing young person out there who maybe feels overwhelmed by all the things that you just mentioned, maybe the economic situation in his or her young life and the health situation and economic and social injustice in the country and uncertainty in the country? What's your message to that individual who may be in a state of despair today?
Yeah, my message is I hear you and I understand, and there are means and ways for folks to get help throughout this crisis that we're living through. And just to remain hopeful, and hope is not all gone. You can reach out here in the Township of Irvington. You can reach out to the mayor's office. You can reach out to me personally, and we'll try to assist you in any and every way possible. I think when people feel like all hope is lost is when we're at the height of our despair. And it takes a bunch of us coming together to hold each other up at, difficult times. I mean, no one is saying these times aren't difficult. No one is saying we don't understand why people feel the way that they feel. But it's just a testament to, just being a human being, how strong we are and what we've endured throughout many decades in this country and on this planet, that we can conquer anything. We just need to retool, get together, get our minds right, get focused, and make sure that we do what we have to do, each of us individually do what we have to do to combat this crisis.
Mayor, you mentioned the police brutality issue in this country, and we're talking now against the backdrop of the closing arguments in the Derek Chauvin murder trial. And just if you could tell me a little bit about your reaction to that trial, and also contextualize it for me in your town. To what extent did that horrific killing change police procedures, if at all, or did you already have police procedures and policies in place that would make something like that difficult to happen here in Irvington?
Well, Irvington being predominantly a Black town, majority of our officers are Black officers. Sometimes there's a comparison of apples to oranges. I think it's more of that type of situation. But for me and many Black folks, we're just waiting to see the outcome. It's almost like we're going to the movies and we're watching the movie and we're just waiting to see the ending. We've seen all this before, but we're waiting to see the ending. We're waiting to see if there's really justice for all. I've watched the prosecution put on their case. I mean, I don't think the defense did anything to move, in my mind, any needle that says that this young man was not brutally murdered. I mean, we just call it what it is. He was murdered. And there's no excuse on this planet that they can give to erase what we all seen with our eyes. So many of us in Irvington and surrounding areas are just waiting to see what the verdict is, waiting to see if justice is really for us and it's really for all Black people. Because unfortunately, we don't believe it until we see it. So everyone's just in a wait and see mode to see what the outcome is going to be.
Mayor, you just hinted at it, but what's your confidence level that the jury will deliver a guilty verdict this evening? What are you thinking now that you've heard everything? Are you still in a state of somewhat of disbelief, or in a state of deep skepticism based on your experience?
Well, it's not a deep skepticism. It's a history of what happens. This is not the first time, unfortunately, that this has happened. And for many of us, most of the time, people get off, and they wonder why folks say Black lives are not valued in this country. Because all we're asking for, all any Black person is asking for is just justice. Justice under the law. And they didn't prove their case. The defense didn't prove that this was not a brutal execution caught on tape. And all the excuses and all the defenses were just lackluster. They didn't do anything to move the dial. And we just want to see what the verdict is going to be, because I can assure you, if the verdict is not guilty, everyone is going to say, well, we knew it, because that's what happens, because we knew they didn't value Black life in the beginning. So,
Mayor, we tend to get a little complacent in New Jersey, perhaps, pointing the finger at other places and other states. But what kind of healing do you think we have to do in this state among our communities and among our very segmented or disjointed towns in the way of repairing racial relations?
I think the first step is always understanding the point of view of someone else. Even with this incident, I mean, we can talk about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many other people that we can name that hit the national media. But this sort of stuff for us happens all the time. And I think with George Floyd especially, it brought it to the forefront where other people started to realize that, hey, this stuff is really happening to Black people. You know, their encounters with police officers are totally different from other racial or ethnic groups' encounters with the police officers. And I think it started to bring it to light. To other people started to really notice that. You know, other white folks started to realize, hey, you know, this is not a case of it's a one-off and something happened and it was misunderstood. This young man was really brutally murdered, and I want to get involved. And that's why you saw throughout this country, many people getting involved and marching and protesting, no matter what their racial or ethnic groups were. Everyone saw the same thing. And, you know, we can get comfortable in New Jersey, but it happens in New Jersey too. I mean, this is just not looking at Minnesota or Detroit or Chicago or, you know, Texas or Florida or Atlanta, Georgia. You know, there's so many things that are going on. A legislator got locked up for knocking on the governor's door and got charged with a felony when she had every right to be there. Mm-hmm. Every right to be there. So there's so many things that contribute to this. There's so many inequities, as it's everyone's supposed to be the same under the law. That's just not factual, you know. So hopefully, you know, this is one step toward justice, but there's so many others that, you know, has fall short of being complete and giving the family members and the loved ones the type of closure that they need by knowing that the people that created these heinous situations and policies and procedures and acts are held accountable for their decisions.
Mayor, I'd like to ask you too, if we could, about the governor's proposals last week in the way of gun violence prevention. And do you think those were good? And more to the point, because you are the mayor of a town that is a scourge, or has been, of gun violence, certainly in the past. And there was an incident over the weekend. Thankfully, no one was hurt or killed. But what do we need to do to really reform our laws so that we can really make an impact on eliminating violent gun behavior?
Well, one of the things we have to do is have the motivation to do something about it. We all know what the problem is. We all see the problem. A lot of people talk about gun violence, and in a lot of communities, it happens very frequently that it almost becomes normal in some communities. But you have to understand that if you want to do something about gun violence, you will. Just like we want to do something about any other thing. But I don't think we have the wherewithal or just the backbone to do something about gun violence. A lot of these folks that are caught with guns, as you know, in New Jersey, you can't carry a handgun, it's illegal. A lot of these people who were caught with them, they didn't manufacture these guns. They didn't bring them here. They were manufactured someplace else, and they were brought here. So if we really wanted to stop gun violence, we need to do something at the source and stop the guns from getting in the hands of people who should not have them. You know, whether that be serious background checks, you know, banning certain weapons, you know, and I think, you know, some people have a right, in some states, you have a right to bear arms. And, you know, the first thing you start talking about when we have these conversations, people are going to take your guns. It's not about taking guns. It's about having guns in the hands of capable, responsible people and not criminals, you know, or not folks that may have mental issues, you know, that could take another life. So if we really want to take a hard look at that, we will. But I'm not sure that we want to. I applaud what the governor is doing, but it's going to take more. It's going to take more than just the governor's proposals. It's going to take support from not only everyone here in this state, but around this country to just say enough is enough. From mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting, after blood spilled all over the ground, we're still having a debate about gun violence.
Mayor Tony Vauss of Irvington, thank you so much for your time today, sir. And I hope we can catch up again soon. There's so much volatility in our world right now, and I would value your insights certainly very soon again.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.